Hey, Stevie on here doing the Junkyard Crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with the 1980 Chevy C10 Custom Deluxe. You gotta remember that the square body Chevrolet pickup went from 1973 through 1987, 88, and it was replaced by the aerodynamic GMT 400. And of course, you gotta remember that Blazers and Suburbans continued with this older body style for a few more years after pickup trucks abandoned it in 1986-7. With that said, in 1980, there were several variations. This is the basic Custom Deluxe. We see it here on the front fender, but there was also the Scottsdale, the Cheyenne, and the Silverado moving level by level up beyond this. Now this is an interesting little truck. It's a half-ton, looks like a long bed. We'll find out more about that in a second. But the big thing here is that the grille. 1980 was the final year for round headlights. You see them right here. And you got to remember that Ford trucks, as of late 1978, had standard square headlights, but Chevy waited all the way till 1980 to put rectangular headlights, but only on the upscale trucks. The Custom Deluxes like this one retained the single round headlight for the final time in 1980. 1981, all Chevy trucks would go to rectangular or square headlights, sometimes stacked depending on the model. But again, final year right there for the round headlights. Another thing we know makes this a Custom Deluxe base cheap truck is the painted bumper, no chrome here, and the lack of an engine call out in the grille here, as seen in earlier trucks, tells us that there's probably not much going on under the hood. So let's take a peek. And speaking of that hood, this is a Pontiac Le Mans hood. This is not a Chevy pickup truck hood. Of course, they're much wider, but somebody put it on here to keep the engine dry. Let's hope it's something cool, and no, it's not. Okay, this is the inline six, the 250 cubic inch Chevy six-banger, which arrived in the early 1960s, but check this out. All the smog gizmos on this thing right here were added to give it some compliance, but the valve cover looks like that's like maybe cylinder deactivation, right? Those are towers to work the valve springs. Nope, these are chambers here which help to collect crankcase vapors to send them back. There's also, I guess, an exhaust gas. Oh, here's the air pump right here that somebody trimmed and cut. This is what happens to most factory smog junk. People trash it. With that said, these tall covers here are unique to the smog era inline six. And here's the oil filler in the middle. And the weird thing is the valve cover is very short in the middle, but tall on the ends. But don't make the mistake of thinking that these are cylinder deactivators, not at all. This does have HEI, the high energy ignition, which is a good thing, seen first in 75. The coil is built in up here, and it's a good high energy sparker, no points, and better for fuel efficiency. And the exhaust system on this is also worthy of note. You can see the exhaust manifold is split. There's two head pipes going down into a single Y, and then from there into a single monolith type catalytic converter. But again, that dual manifold arrangement, you could put that on a 250 and a Nova and make dual exhaust out of it. A little plus in this sea of minus under the hood of this thing. And the carburetor, this is one of those smog era Mickey Mouse carburetors right here. And I'm sure that our friend Google user GP will tell us more about how nasty this thing is, and I will agree. Get that off there. I think it's a dual jet or some wacky thing, a Rochester wacko carburetor. But we see power steering, no air conditioning on this very austere basic truck. But kind of cool to see right here, the ram air system. Yeah, this thing right here takes air from behind the grill, would have fed it into the air cleaner. And if you know your Oldsmobiles, 1966 W30, baby, they had these things on both sides feeding that 400 cubic inch triple carbureted engine. But in 1980, it was a whole different thing because cool air helps with efficiency as well as horsepower. Now, of course, they don't call these square bodies for nothing. We can see the square motif on the fender. Even the wheel arches are squared off, all the body lines on these things. The interiors and the cabs, largely the same, and in fact, the weird thing about this generation of Chevy truck was that they never offered an extended cab. They did offer the 3+3, the four-door version, but unlike Dodge and Ford, which by this point in time had offered extended cabs at a little tiny place in the back, Chevy didn't have this until the GMT 400 in 1988. So with that said, kind of an interesting throwback all the way back to 73. No extended cabs in Chevyland until 1987, 88. Anyway, so let's look inside. Now, this never gets old. Ladies and gentlemen, from Los Angeles, California, the door. Inside this one, we see the standard bench seat. Again, this is a Custom Deluxe, nothing more special about this, 4-speed manual coming out of the floor, rubber floor mat, no carpeting here. Very austere, again, a workman truck, if you will. You can see right there the Kelsey trailer brake controller, the electric trailer brakes, that thing that says Energize on it, and that would have been added on by the subsequent buyer of this truck in order to tow a trailer and have the trailer brakes function and avoid that deadly whiplash deal. And this here is a 1973 Chevy pickup truck brochure. Again, the birth of the square body, 1973. Good stuff here. And again, Chevy Truck Stop. You'll find all your trucking needs under one roof. Ours, building a better way to serve the USA, United Chevrolet, Worcester, Mass. And inside, we see them boasting about things that were new to the square body, starting with staggered placement of the shock absorbers. To combat axle hop, the passenger side shock absorber is in front of the axle and the driver's side shock is behind it. And the cab was redesigned. We can see here new flow-through power ventilation. Outside air flows into the cab through larger inlet valves in the cowl and larger plenum chamber in the cowl and outlet valves in the side doors. The cool air comes in through the cowl, pressurizes the cab, and is released through these vents right here. 1973 also brought a new frame-mounted fuel tank. The fuel tank has been relocated outside the cab to a position on the right frame rail, reduces slosh, noise, and fuel odor. And again, in 1972 back, the gas tank would have been behind the seat and the filler right here. By repositioning the fuel tank by the frame and outside of the cab, in addition to reducing slosh noise, it also reduced the likelihood of a flaming inferno in case the truck went upside down. You don't want 25 gallons of gas behind the seat. You'd much rather have it out here. The only downside is when Chevy pickup trucks were ordered with the dual tanks, the tanks were on either side of the vehicle. In Ford land, they would put the dual tank openings on the same side of the truck. A little more convenient, but with that said, moving the tanks outside the cab was a step in the right direction. And while Chevy pickups did get optional front disc brakes in 1971 and 72, for 73 on there was standard up front. And it says here, durable and self-adjusting, these brakes provide resistance to fade and recover quickly from water immersion. Power assist is standard in all but the Series 10, where you paid extra. And here are those front disc brakes. And the nice thing about these is, unlike Chevy pickups of the 60s, which had awkward 6-lug wheels, from 73 onward, the half-tonner two-wheel drive's got 5-lug wheels with the same bolt pattern as a lot of passenger car Chevrolets. So you could put mag wheels on these things without having to hunt for some weird truck wheels. So that's kind of the story about how the Chevy square cab, square body, square series, square family, whatever you want to call it, from 73 on, really brought Chevrolet pickup trucks into a place of being very competitive with Ford and certainly leading Dodge. And we all know that Dodge pickup trucks kind of emulated the look of Chevy trucks as you get into this period of time. So it's a question of follow the leader, although Ford was always selling more trucks than Dodge or Chevrolet, but Chevrolet was in there swinging with the square bodies. Now, if you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, give us a like, and by all means hit the bell so you know when the next video hits, which is tomorrow morning.